Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, an inspired conversation space between Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner on the journey of motherhood through the common thread of parenting, relationship, and sexuality as a path to consciousness.
We keep our conversations honest, our experiences real, and our philosophies exploratory. We believe that in order to raise incredible humans, we first have to raise ourselves. We know that in order to rock the family, you've got to nourish the mother. If you are here, you care about paving a path of conscious and intentional motherhood, connected with yourself and your gifts, and also illuminating your children in theirs so we may raise more whole humans who can impact this world in a more humane way.
If you desire to integrate your learnings practically and supportively, head on over to bridgetwood.life or julietenner.love to go deeper. And for all live-streamed pre-release podcasts and all our free content, head over to our free Facebook group, Nourishing the Mother with Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner. We are Julie Tenner and Bridget Wood, and we are so grateful you're here.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
And I'm Julie Tenner. And today's podcast is Help. It feels like my life is run by everyone except me. And that kind of breaks our heart, that statement. Yes. And yet we know that we ourselves have, I feel like you and I, though, have navigated our lives that we haven't lived there, but we've certainly dipped in there.
Yeah. And I think sometimes day to day, we can feel like, whoa, I'm going to that place where I'm getting annoyed because I'm too much being consumed by everybody else.
Yeah, totes. I totally recognize that as well. So we have 4 points that we want to walk you through in this podcast that will help you move from feeling like you are the backseat driver to your own life and moving more consciously towards being the one who's driving your life. So 4 points in this podcast that we will get done within 20 minutes. And it is 20 minutes well spent in your time. So be ready for a power-packed set of boom, 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 boom.
Yes. And I hope our listeners love that. Sometimes we're like, bang, 20 minutes done. And other times we take you on a journey through the fields of flowers and all of the landscapes.
Yes. Not tonight, though. Tonight we want to make sure if this is you, it does not have to be you. And we want you to have the tools to bring yourself out of it. So it may mean that each one of these steps move too quickly for you in this 20 minutes. That's cool. Our advice to you is save this podcast. Just hit pause and do the one step before you move on to the next one, and just keep it there for yourself to continue to move forwards, but at a pace that perhaps is a little slower than 20 minutes.
Yeah, love that.
So point number 1, law of conservation.
Yes. So nature hates a vacuum. So we are nature. Surprise, surprise. We behave the same way that the universe does. Anything that's in a black hole goes into black hole, it gets consumed, right? So if we leave room in our life that's just open wide, that we haven't chosen what goes there, then other people around us are going to choose what goes there for us. We either drive our own life or we become a pawn or a piece in somebody else's life. And that even includes our children. Like, as much as we might have mothering and family as really super high values for ourselves, if we haven't set our day up we've got a clear plan for, I want to get this done, or this is a priority for me, or I'm going to support myself and create a container for this thing to happen, then our children's needs pop up and we'll consume that if we're not first valuing our time going where we truly, really want it. And this is really important for mothers to remember, because we live in a construct where, mother guilt is just part and parcel of modern motherhood. And so much of what we can end up doing is almost like some kind of compensation for what we think we've done wrong in the past. So we're kind of keeping this invisible ledger with ourselves and sometimes our children around, oh gosh, that time when I didn't show up for them, or I lost my temper. Okay, I'll do this a little bit more here. But in doing that all of the time, we then build this sometimes unconscious resentment toward our child or toward our partner, toward the person we said yes to, when deep down it was a no.
Good. So point number 2 is resentment. So let's go there, since you've had a beautiful segue there.
Yeah.
How do you see that this dynamic builds resentment?
Because ultimately, the more that it's kind of like a elastic band, right? Like imagine yourself like in the center here, and you wrap this elastic band around yourself, and you're happy for it to stretch a little bit, and you're in service to others, and you come back into yourself, and you kind of in service to that other person, you come back into yourself. But then you stretch that rubber band so much that it builds so much tension because you've got so far away from yourself that it has to snap back. And when it snaps back into you, we can very often make the perpetrator to us our child, or that person outside of us who we gave our power to when we said yes too many times when really it was a no. So our resentment is this kind of constant undercurrent that we need to keep in check, and that if we don't, we will take out on the people around us. And it's an interesting, you and I have talked about this before in the podcast, and it's a little bit tricky, but the more that we infatuate with something and think that it's so delicious and so beautiful and there's all joy and there's nothing bad and oh God, I just want to consume it, that actually takes away our power, because we're losing ourselves in that thing. And the natural snap back is to uncover the hidden resentment that we also hold for how that thing or that person does pull us away from ourselves. And so this can happen for women who, allow themselves to be fully consumed by motherhood. And then sometimes their child can do something which creates resentment in the mother. But that resentment can be purposeful, because then what it does is it pulls the mother back into herself, and she goes, hang on, I'm losing myself here. I'm allowing my life to be consumed by all of these needs of other people, when actually, what do I really want? And so and that's why I love this kind of dance between this infatuation and resentment that is natural and part of human behavior. But then when we can keep a pulse on, we can then go, I can see how resentment was functional in this dynamic right now, because I'd been giving too much of myself. I'd been denying what was really me in order to be in relationship with that person, or, interested in that thing, but it's not really what truly brings me joy. So I've now perception flipped into this resentment in order for me to come back into me.
I love it so much, because it stops you being so busy looking out at the outside world at everybody else and saying it's because of you and you and you and you and you. And if you weren't doing these things, or if you weren't here, my life would be fine, which of course is not true. You are the creator of your universe.
Yes.
And what is it that you see outside is how you are inside. So I love what you're saying, because it's asking us to forget the lens outside. It's got nothing to do with anyone else. And it's got everything to do with what is the reflection here for me? What is the gift for me here? How can I love this, rather than perceive that it's still keeping me down or keeping me in a victim cycle? So I just love the power that's in that.
Yeah. And sometimes we can then from here, like there's a critical point here where we go, I see myself doing this, but then I'm worried that if I pull back, how will, say, my child's highest values get met, because I'm the one who supports that, or I'm the one who is the vehicle for that. But the next question to ask then is like, okay, well, who else could support them in that? And is my identity flexible enough to allow that? Because sometimes we have a desire, but we're not willing to take the action required to fulfill that desire. So if our desire is, I want more time for me, or I want more time for my creativity, or my business I want to grow, or my relationship, but that requires an action to be taken that stops a behavior that we know is building resentment. And that action might be, I need to outsource some stuff, but my identity and my need to be this for this person is so fragile or kind of filled with conditions that I actually am not willing to let myself do the thing to have the thing.
Yeah. Like another way to look at that is, okay, so if you didn't do this thing, what would it mean about you? because that's when you can see that you're in service for what you think is so, about the other, but in actual fact is completely self-consumed because you can't not do that thing because of the fear of what it will mean about you.
Yeah. Which
so
is like,
it looks altruistic.
Yeah.
But it's very narcissistic.
And this is such a good question to ponder. And it will be uncomfortable to ponder because, this is the crux of a lot of shadow work. It's like, okay, I thought I was this, like divine, generous, kind-hearted, always thinking about everybody else, selfless.
Peacekeeper. Blah, blah.
But actually I'm getting all of these secondary gains out of this dynamic.
So this is part of it, right, is to go, okay, but we are always living in our highest values, right? Like we always are.
Yeah, we are. I mean, there will be some times where or some people who are more likely to
give up themselves.
Live under conditions. Yeah.
Yes. But even within that, the thing that we're doing that we say we don't like, we're still getting benefits that feed our own value system.
Yeah. And even the most warped things, right? Like take something that you think is really bad and ask the person what they're gaining out of it. But there are secondary gains that we get from shitty dynamics.
Yes. So part of this resentment is that whenever you self-minimize, whenever you put your needs, your self-care, your desires, and you continuously like in service of the other, you think you're being this, it's the martyr syndrome though, isn't it? Is I will sacrifice everything of myself in order to be this grace-filled mother being.
Ever spacious.
Right. And in doing that, though, you are self-minimizing because you are less than the people, the children, the needs, the whatever, the chores outside. You're less than all of those things. So when you do that, when you self-minimize who you are, you will build resentment towards those things, the housework, the chores, I'm the slave, I'm not valued, the children, your needs are so intense, I can't handle it, I'm lost, my whole life is consumed by your needs. Yeah, but you are self-minimizing because of those things, and your function of resentment is to bring you up out of that pit into being something that's more even keel to all of those needs and humans, which is where we love our fullest, when we're all even. If you self-minimize, you will build resentment. So even though you think you're being this gracious, filled figure, you're not, because what's happening is the resentment that will take them down so you can build in its even keel. So better to do this work and go, okay, hang on a minute. I do have autonomy here. I am choosing this. I am still getting my values met. Maybe my values are really that I'm still compassionate, that I still meet people's needs, that I meet emotions first, that I choose my children above, blah, blah, blah. There's still needs and values that are serving you. So even in the meeting of other people's needs, you're serving your own values.
Yeah.
So you start to see where your power is, even as your life exists now. We're asking you to look at it with a different lens. Then we would love you to consider, where do you take back power? Because the truth is, you're not powerless everywhere.
No. Yeah. And I love this because we can, like in this culture and society, like, we love a label. We love a, black and white, this is this, oppression versus power and all of that stuff we throw around. But ultimately, you will be powerful in various areas of your life. You'll be powerful in your highest values, likely. And your life is a balance of empowerment, disempowerment.
Right.
And it's just going to move all the time. Chaos and order, empowerment and disempowerment. It's going to change. Like the way that energy is always transforming form, so is your power.
But what is so fascinating about this is we forget how thoroughly our human brain filters our reality. Like we really forget it. We now have a learner driver who, we're now driving, which is like freaking terrifying. And my husband said to me yesterday, he goes, oh my God, I was driving because he now drives to and from basketball and to and from school and stuff like that. He goes, I drove into the basketball the other day and all of a sudden I noticed the car park was like filled with learner drivers.
I've never noticed learner drivers before. I'm like, isn't the human brain amazing?
Yes.
Because that amount of learners was always there.
Yeah.
But you only see it right now because it's now part of your lens.
Yeah, you can look this up. So if you want to know how this works, it's called the reticular activating system, the RAS system in the brain. And that's what it does. So it's kind of like you didn't notice anyone had the same car you drive until you buy that car. You're like, oh my God, everyone has it. Or you didn't notice the L plates until you get your L's and you're like, oh my God, there's all these L platers.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you didn't notice the pregnant women until you're yearning to be pregnant.
And now you see them
and then everyone's pregnant.
Right. So this is why we want to do this work consciously, to go, okay, I'm seeing my world as powerless, but where is my power? Let me see my power. Let me filter to see my power, because I will build this equilibration within myself where I can see I have a conservation of both.
Yeah.
And that then removes the emotional charge. So we're asking you to see, okay, we already know all of the places that you feel disempowered. We already know them. We don't need to spend time there.
Yeah.
What we want you to spend your time is consciously asking, where do I have my power? Where do I have power? Where am I powerful? Is it in my parenting? Is it in my wellness? Is it in my emotional intelligence? Is it in my self-growth and self-mastery? Is it in my relationship? Is it in my body connection? Is it in my social community life? Is it in my work and what I give to the world? Is it in my finances and how I manage our family? Where is your power? Because you are not, the degree to which you see you are powerless, you are equally powerful. So where is it? I would also say there's shadow versions of this. And I would also offer that sexual function can often play into this. So having a super low, turned off sex drive, not interested, seized up, is you taking back power.
So how is, yeah, and I love that. So, you know, almost how is like your perceived sexual dysfunction something that you are participating
power,
orchestrating, because you feel you use it as a power balancer. Right? A little bit like, if we don't wake ourselves up to where our power truly is, then we will notice ourselves overpowering our children.
Wow, I was about to say, right.
We're trying to get power, not realizing we're already powerful. We just haven't seen it.
Exactly. Are you powerful in how you have total control over how your kids are parented? That might mean it can only be you, but there's power in that. Yeah. You have total domination over that.
And, you know, we see these dynamics show up also in disordered eating, right? Like it can be a real, you know, effort to exact power over yourself, or, you know, over potentially sometimes unconscious traumas by how you eat.
Yeah.
What you eat and what you don't eat.
Totally. Actually, I had coffee with this woman on Instagram called Rainbow Fire Love Queen, and she's like full on and full color. And I just adore her. And she is just like straight up as a coach, which is part of what I love. And I was sitting at coffee with her the other day, and she said, you know, I won't work with just anyone. You have to be ready for that like sting. And she said, even I had this anorexic person who was struggling with anorexia come into my office, and she said, you know, I'm ready to work with you. And this woman looked at her and went, no, you're not. Come back when you are.
Wow.
And this girl was like, what do you mean? Like, I have this eating disorder and I'm so struggling. And she's like, no, you're not. You're the strongest fucking person I've ever met. Are you kidding me? You literally starve yourself beyond your survival mechanisms. How could there possibly be someone more powerful than you? So until you're ready to own your power, don't you walk back into my office.
Oh, fuck, that's so good.
And I was like, fuck.
I mean, that would trigger so many people, but like, talk about like cool.
I love hearing it though, right? Because she's a naturopath like me who has found herself in this world of using her skill set in a really intuitive and different way. And she works with startups and startup companies and their CEO management teams.
Right.
So it's so fascinating to listen to this story. So I was loving just this like woman. She went, oh, like, holy shit, how did this person go? She goes, oh, she fucking hated me. And then about 3 months later, she came back and she sat down on my chair and said, you're right, I'm ready.
Wow.
And she changed her life.
That's amazing.
Because she owned her power.
Yeah. God, that's powerful, hey?
Isn't it, right? So where do you have power? Where do you have domination? Is it in how your kids eat? Is it in how your family eats? Is it in the clothes you wear, the sustainability choices you choose, the way that you navigate your family and your community and your social life, your money, your parenting, your sexuality?
Yeah.
Like, you fucking have power. Where is it?
Own it. Own it like the fucking queen you are, because you're a queen. Wake it up.
Yeah. Yes. You want to be conscious of where your power is, because that is what will equilibrate you, having the perception that someone else is driving your life. Because the truth is, it's not. No one is. It's a perception. Yes, our time will be sucked by other people if we don't govern our time, but our life will still be led by our top values.
Yeah.
This podcast is brought to you by the offers we currently have on in our world. So over at bridgetwood.life, you can find out more about the Reimagining Motherhood membership. It's the place where conscious parenting and the whole woman collide to empower you in motherhood. And you, Jules?
Over at julietenner.love is the online couples workshop experience. It's 12 dates that you join from the comfort of your bedroom or lounge room, cameras off, guided by me over a 12-month experience. So one date at the beginning of each month that inspires the support and the change that you can create in the rest of your month. So it's a set it and forget it healthcare system for your relationship. You can find out more at julietenner.love.
How would we, because you and I have both done different kinds of work looking at like inclusion and discrimination and, all of the barriers to entry for many people in society. A lot of this kind of like personal development work can sit very jarringly when you line it up with social justice issues, right? And so I find it fascinating when in the same breath we're talking about all this stuff, and then there'll be people who are like, yeah, but what about da, 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 da. And there's part of me that also wonders, if we go back to that point on the reticular activating system, if we're looking for all of the ways that we're disempowered, then is that all we're going to continue to see? So can we also, and I'm just posturing this, can we also apply this question to, where we look at the systems of oppression in our culture, and how in some ways are they also there from a universal law dynamic to attempt to wake people up to where they're not exercising their power, or to be so angry enough to uprise and take power?
I mean, I definitely think that's part of the conversation. I don't know if, as a privileged white woman, that's a conversation that I have the right to enter, or even remotely center myself within. So I also don't feel like that's a conversation that I'm ready to have. I think I'm still really deeply in the observation and learning and decolonialization phase of the work. Where that instantly took me to, though, was I've been, as you have, Bridgie, been working fairly constantly on my bias and on my colonialization for, 2.5-ish years, 3 years maybe. So it's been a long haul and a lot of money and a lot of emotional investment and all of the things, which is exactly what it should be as a journey as a white privileged person. Exactly what it should be. I still feel like I'm really far, but I can see things that I didn't used to be able to see. And so those things have translated across into how I navigate myself within my businesses. But I really struggled with that, particularly within the tantric space, because it's still very gender binary. And even just in my social media feed, which is clearly very white woman.
Yeah.
So this was actually one of the conversations I had with Erica Kramer and her husband when I had a business retreat with them back in March, and I spent 4 days with them, and they fucking ripped me to shreds on this one.
So I'm very interested in this.
They are both people of color. And they both were like, that is not your job. That is my job, our job as people of color to do that. Like they were just, like business to business, they were like pulling me apart on all of that stuff as people of color.
Wow. Because they felt like that you would, it's almost an attempt to alleviate your own guilt.
Well, that's the point that you were talking about is where is your power? That is yours to claim and to own and to initiate. Now, as a white person, I don't think that's a conversation I can have because I have no knowing of it.
That's right. Yeah, we can only speculate, and it may be way off, right?
Right. I have no lived experience of it. So, as a privileged white person for whom owns a business that I'm seeking to always create more diversity and inclusion, it is my job as a white person to continue my own personal work of decolonialization and creating safer and safer spaces within the learnings and the knowings that I have at each one of those times. That is always my job. That is my responsibility to, as much as possible, create spaces where I can meet those that experience marginalization, because 100% that exists in classism and in racism and in sexism and in all of the isms, right?
Yeah.
And all of the phobias, they totally exist. So my work is always to decondition myself, and with each one of those knowings to create safer spaces. But also part of that conversation is what you touched on, which is exactly what Erica and her husband were touching on, which was deeply challenging for me. Like, we almost had this like raised voice banter as I'm like, no, this is my job to do this. And they're like, no, it's fucking not. Let it go.
Yeah. It's so interesting. And I felt like we couldn't have this conversation about like, you're creating everything, you create universe without also putting a pin in wall. But yes, we also live inside systems where there's many people who can't get the freedom that we're talking about because of the barriers to entry into that system.
Yeah.
So it's tricky, like, and I just wanted to put a pin in it. And we don't have the answer because we're coming at it from our bias and our level of privilege, and speaking to probably other privileged people too.
Yes.
So within your privilege, where's your power?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, wherever you are, where is your power?
Yeah. And wherever you are, right?
Yeah. The way you see the world is the life that you experience, right? You see a world without enough love, be love, you'll find love. You see a world where there's not enough happiness, find your happiness and you will see happiness.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter where you're at, you still have a level of co-creation in that world, but it starts from within.
I really love this because I definitely feel like I spent a lot of my 20s trying to change the world outside.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a bit of a rite of passage.
Doesn't Maya Angelou have a parable or whatever, something like that?
I know Rumi has one, which is at first I was clever and I wanted to change the world, and now I am wise and I'm changing myself. And I love the sentiment of that because it's, it speaks to that point that, like, and I think Jordan Peterson, who I know is very polarizing, but he speaks about this too. It's like, get your own house in order first.
Yeah, totally.
Like before you go and start like deciding that everything else that out there needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
Like, grow right where you're planted.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Amen. So we would love you to ruminate on where you're building resentment because of self-minimization, and where still within that you have power and are still choosing your top values. Where is your law of conservation? And where are you taking power even as your life exists now, and to equilibrate the degree to which you feel powerless? List and see your world until you feel equally powerful, and it will change how you perceive yourself and your world, and you will no longer be the backseat driver.
Yes. Beautiful. So what's happening in your world at the moment, Jules?
What is happening in my world? So we are launching on July 5th the couples online workshop experience. So if you missed the free one, you can get the replay for the next week. So you can jump on any of our socials and find that. We'll also put the link in here. So this is a once a month date night. That's an hour. You give me an hour and a half a month for the next 12 months and I will change your relationship one activity at a time. And again,
so I have actually personally signed us up to this because
I know I'm so like, there's always this weird moment where my beautiful friends, and you're a deep, like loving, nurturing friend. And I'm like, wow, like the depth of responsibility that I feel knowing you and knowing that knowing someone and saying, I still want to be led by you, I think is actually even harder than not personally knowing someone. Don't you think?
Yeah, because knowing someone really closely, like you know all of them, right?
Yeah.
And you're still saying, I choose to be led by you.
Yeah.
And it's because I know what beautiful containers you hold. And also I know like at every level, we all need mentorship. And I have a great relationship, but I still want it to be better.
Right. So, this is the thing. It doesn't have to be broken.
Yeah. And also like, because parenting is such a high value for both my husband and I, that can easily crowd out the value that we have on connecting with each other. Yes. So I need systems and structures outside of me that can also hold me accountable to really nurturing that other value too. And so I look to, just like I look to my account to help my business, you know, be like dot the I's and cross the T's. And I have a business coach. I also want other mentorship that helps me expand in the areas that are important to me, right? Yeah. So yeah, I'm really excited.
I agree. I'm super excited to have you in there too. I really am. I'm actually super excited about the dates. Like I'm excited about the fact that we can spend an hour and a half once a month that I know I'm just setting up, do this, here's the activity, here's the why, go.
Yeah.
It's the activity, here's the why, go. And what I noticed last night were people were having fantastic, I had this message from someone today who was like, we've been together 28 years and we had conversations last night on the workshop that we have never had.
That's so cool.
How cool is that?
So
I was like, this is what I want. This is so great. So I would love you to come and join that. You can find out about 12 months of dating with me on any of the places at julietenner.love and also at Nourishing the Mother. And you, Bridgie, what's going on in your world?
I am opening up a very limited number of 1-to-1 3-month kind of mentorship situations with people.
And I would also say, if you've never worked with Bridgie before, she is devoted in the way that she meets you.
Thank you.
I really see that in you.
I really, really love working 1-to-1. And I love it actually too, because every woman that I work with, because of this podcast, brings me all of herself.
How cool is that?
In the first session.
So good. Like, let's just clear out the niceties. We haven't got time. Let's just
which is so good. Because I reveal myself in this podcast, so you feel safe to reveal yourself with me. So I'm excited about that. So if you are interested in working 1-to-1 and also coming in as part of the Reimagining Motherhood membership, which will also support your growth, then check out my website, bridgetwood.life.
What would people work one-on-one with you for?
It's interesting because I think some people think that they're coming in to talk about parenting stuff, but it always goes back to yourself. So it'll often be identity shifting, kind of like, you know, where is my values at right now? It might be relationship tussling and struggling with resentments or struggling with communication. It might be looking at your child differently and seeing what they're mirroring for you. So it's typically self-parenting or family dynamic stuff. And also sometimes it's like claiming yourself, a little bit like this topic we're having about power. It's like me reflecting to you what you intuitively sense is there, but that you almost need somebody to reflect back, which is so beautiful.
So beautiful. So beautiful. So bridgetwood.life and julietenner.love, and you can find us at nourishingthemother.com.au, Nourishing the Mother on Facebook and Instagram. We would love your messages. We love your emails. We read and respond. We're very social on the socials, and we would love to hear if you have a podcast suggestion, a topic you would like to explore with us, or a question that you would love us to riff on, and it can be completely anonymous. So please reach out, and we would love to take the conversation where you need it to go.
Yes. Remember to nourish the woman, to rock the family.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey.
Thank you so much for listening. We literally couldn't do this without you. Please share this podcast with anyone you think it would be medicine for.
If you desire to integrate your learnings practically and supportively into your life, then head on over to bridgetwood.life or julietenner.love to go deeper.
And if you feel like giving back a little to this free content, please rate us on iTunes or Facebook, all of which helps the podcast reach more mamas who need this type of tonic for the soul.